But the big news yesterday, of course, comes the way of, again, this was written up by Samuel Tolbert of Windows Central. It was posted 21 hours ago. Confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, Forza Horizon 5 is the next title to make the leap from Xbox to PlayStation. And it goes on to say for the article, further to Microsoft's pledge to make Xbox more profitable, one of their biggest franchises is arriving on PlayStation soon. And when he says soon, he means spring. So I'm just going to read verbatim from the article. If you've read the article already, just please bear with us because some people have not. The article says this: the next Xbox game being ported over to PlayStation 5 is Playground Games' Forza Horizon 5. The Xbox teams revealed it on Thursday. Over the past year, Microsoft has made no secret of its plans to begin launching more and more games on the PlayStation ecosystem. Sea of Thieves was among the first. Then Indiana Jones was announced, and now Microsoft is going even further. Forza Horizon 5 is one of Microsoft's most successful games in the platform's history, serving tens of millions of players. The flagship racing game is the gold standard for the genre. And is this a multi-plat award-winning game? Yes, it is. It's also a huge moneymaker for Microsoft, owing to its live service nature, ongoing updates, and in-app purchases. Forza Horizon 5 launched back on the Xbox Series X and the Series S and the Xbox One and Windows PC in November of 2021. The game was a roaring success, rapidly reaching over 20 million players, and like its predecessors, achieving critical acclaim. So, Fuzzy, again, this is your baby. This is one of your favorite games. It continues to play. We have a lot of questions. This is going to be one of those topics, folks, that has a lot of layers. So we're going to get initial impressions. Then we're going to kind of walk it up a bit and talk about what this actually does for Gran Turismo as a franchise. Because I got news for you. Even though this is a stark difference, literally a 1,000% difference from what you get with Gran Turismo, it's going to be hard for Gran Turismo to one-up Forza Horizon 5. It really is, because, yes, I looked at the numbers, and I got some numbers that were estimated. So I don't have, again, take it with a grain of salt. It was from a Gran Turismo website, not officially, but they calculated the numbers based on Gran Turismo's sports sales. So I don't know how accurate it is, but they do have Gran Turismo 7 as not only being one of the best-selling Gran Turismos for PlayStation, it's about to pass Gran Turismo 3, which right now is its best-selling Gran Turismo game. And that number was about 14.5 million copies across the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So we will see. I'm trying to get some accurate numbers. That is the number that they calculated. If it's true, awesome. If it's not, take it with a grain of salt. But Fuzzy, I just want to bring this right back around to why we're here, and that's to talk about PlayStation getting one of the best racing franchises in Forza Horizon. But not only that, Forza Horizon 5 is probably one of the best racers, without making it a stretch, in the last decade. What does this actually do for the franchise?
Well, I want to start with addressing those that are smashing their Xboxes, or supposedly smashing their Xboxes. It's a waste of time and energy and attention seeking, to the point where you would be better off, although I've seen people do this too, and this is still silly to me, to post your receipts from GameStop, but wouldn't it make more sense to trade it in if you're done with Xbox? Trade it in for that PS5. At least get $300 out of it and whatnot. That would make more sense to me. So the silliness of smashing a device doesn't send a message to Xbox. It sends a message to the community that you're probably not mentally stable. So that's a whole nother story. But all of that aside, my backstory started where I was more of a PlayStation guy up until, PS4 and Xbox One. And the big game for PS4 that I was looking forward to was Drive Club. Now, if you guys remember that far back, Drive Club was delayed a year because it was supposed to be a launch title when the console released. It was delayed a year, some sort of, polishing issues, whatever the case may be. And then when it was released, it was kind of a soup sandwich, let's just say, as far as its online component, because that was the big thing that this whole game was built around. Which, if you're familiar with Forza Horizon, you know how the online is greatly integrated into it. But for like the first 3 months, I want to say, its online presence was abysmal. Now, they tried to get it where you could sign in within, I think it was like 40 days, 60 days range, where you could sign in. The drawback was, if you signed in, nobody else could sign in after you, or up to a certain amount of people could sign in. So you were dependent on somebody, signing out to be able to access an online race, or that they changed the playlist of races that were available. And then at that point you were kind of booted and you'd have to restart. And it was a nonsense moment after nonsense moment. And the reason why that brought me to Forza is because they advertised this as a Forza killer, which, on PlayStation, I didn't really know what that meant. Gran Turismo was always the go-to, driving sim as far as I was concerned. So hearing Forza, the thing that was coming out on Xbox at the time was Forza. Actually, at that time, it was Forza Horizon 2, which they did a 360 release and an Xbox One release. And I figured, well, let me give this a try, considering if this was what they were supposed to be killing and this game is not exactly working, which, by the way, I bought like the $100 edition way back then, or whatever the Ultimate Edition was. And they gave away 30 days worth of that content free as an apology, but they didn't do anything for those that paid the $100. See, physical copies, I guess, has their drawbacks to some extent. So that kind of pissed me off. And on top of that, being it was supposed to be a Forza killer, I figured, well, let me give it a try. And I haven't really looked back since. Well, then again, they also closed Evolution Studio, and Drive Club was delisted like it feels like almost a decade ago, but it was roughly about like 6 or 7 years ago that they delisted it. But all of that to say, Forza Horizon to me was one of the best arcade racers out there. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, Gran Turismo, but that's a sim racer. That's more on the lines of like where Forza Motorsport would be, which each one of them has their pros and each one of them has their cons. And I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time of what I feel each one does well and which one, what each one does, poorly, because they each have their flaws and they each have their pros. But when it comes to Horizon versus, like, let's say Drive Club, one, survival, which we know when it comes to games like Concord and quite a few others, they're not here with us any longer. So Forza Horizon actually wound up, progressing into this festival racer, which even Ubisoft had to copy, considering that was probably their more successful version of the Crew since then. But the whole festival thing that they really leaned into, with actually since the first one, but the third one, I think when they were in Australia is where it really expanded, where you had to open up additional festival locations and such. And you were more of the owner of the festival kind of deal. And then they continued that with 4 and added seasons. And then 5, they have seasons, but they're not as noticeably different just because of the landscape. Like Mexican winters, as far as I guess on the mountains, get snowy, but not really snowy much elsewhere. But yeah, it's great that this game is taking the next step as far as being multi-platform. And I know a lot of diehards are going to be like, what are you talking about? If this is your favorite franchise, why would you say that? Well, it's already pretty much run the course on PC and Xbox. If I'm not mistaken, it's between 40 million and 45 million players currently.
Yes,
that have played the game. So I don't think you're really going to get any larger audience than moving it to other platforms. And why would you want a larger audience? Well, a lot of us are clamoring for Forza Horizon 6 to be in Japan. I'm hearing it may be in Germany, whichever one it is. I want like street racing on the highways, much like Tokyo Extreme Racer, which is a game I just picked up on PC. It's an early access. I want to see something like that incorporated into the next series. But keep in mind, as budgets get bigger and we want the games to get bigger, that cost has to come from somewhere. So if they're not getting additional subscriptions or additional sales on the platform where they've already reached 45 million players, what better way to get, let's say, an extra 5 to 15 million players into the fold and have it where we can collect the full $70 or whatever, the deluxe deal with all the car packs and whatnot costs over on PlayStation into that budget. Now, sure, I'm pretty sure some of that will go into shareholders' pockets and whatnot, but a lot of that's going to go back to the studio. A lot of that will be able to be distributed amongst other gaming budgets within Microsoft Gaming or Xbox in general. So that way we get more of the games that we see dropped into Game Pass day and date. So I'm fine with it going over there, just for the fact, one, it's going to now expose the hypocrisy of a lot of people that used to trash talk Forza Horizon, like, oh, it's not a real racing game. Yeah, well, it's a real arcade racer, but there hasn't really been a good one on PlayStation since the demise of Drive Club. And Crew is about the only other thing they can get. And that, I would say, is like I wouldn't say it's the redheaded stepchild, but it's not on par, I think, with Forza Horizon. So I get it. Some of the more diehard fans are not happy with this decision. I mean, me personally, whenever they started putting games on the other platform, it goes against what we've all kind of grew up on. But if it means I get more games in Game Pass day and date, dual entitlement on both PC and Xbox consoles, I'm fine with it. As long as they're not taking anything away and giving a special car pack to PlayStation only, like in the old days, like what they used to have with Call of Duty, where you get certain skins or, certain, loadouts and things like that. The PlayStation got that you didn't get on Xbox. Same thing happened with Destiny and a few other games. So as long as they're not doing anything along those lines, which I don't foresee Phil or any of the Xbox executives doing something that foolish to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this blue series of cars that you get free only on PlayStation. Like, that would be ridiculous. But with that not being the case, I would say take out your frustration online against those that buy it on PlayStation. I mean, don't be toxic about it. Don't call them all names under the sun kind of deal, but just build your car or download an existing tune and race them on the highway or race them in some of the festival events and things like that. Take out your frustration that way. To me, that's more of the console war that I kind of saw coming from a while ago. Like, ever since they did this cross progression, well, not really cross progression, but cross play, where things like Fortnite was really turning up the screws against PlayStation to make it so you can play against others. I say that should be where the console wars move, or if you want to call it the content wars moving forward. But have game night where it's like PlayStation versus Xbox people and race it out that way.
I think. Listen, folks, you're never going to get the communities to agree 100%, but that's just the world. Mm-hmm. I just think that things are changing, and people have to understand that their feelings, they matter. See, and I want to hand the mic back over to you, but I do just want to acknowledge this. If you are a diehard PlayStation gamer, you are cheering this. If you are a diehard Xbox player, you're probably loathing this. I get it. Your feelings matter. They absolutely matter to me. They matter to the channel, and they probably matter to a lot of people in the community. But the truth of the matter is that the industry is on the verge of imploding. It's bloated. It is very expensive to make a game, and these companies want to make money. Is it an excuse? I guess maybe if you are that, hung up on it, maybe it sounds like I've bent the knee. But I'm also someone that is older than most people here in the chat. I'm older than most podcasters in the circles that we run in. And I've been gaming probably the longest. And I have seen traditional gaming, and I've seen the change that is happening. And it is happening, folks, whether you like it or you don't. If you smash your Xbox, okay, good on you for doing that. You smash your PlayStation because, and again, listen, if you think that it starts and ends with Xbox only games going to Switch 2 and PlayStation, it's not, because maybe Switch continues to be who we thought that they were. And that's Nintendo being Nintendo. But you just had massive leadership movement in PlayStation. And that's because the way Herman was running the show was not right. Okay, that was maybe him and Jim were online, and they just, when Jim left, he took over where Jim, dropped the ball, and he just kept doing his thing. You have different leadership that just said in call for investors that they are going to aggressively make moves to make money on their games on other platforms. Now, is that only PC? If that makes you sleep well at night, by all means, have a nice sleep. But that is not the reality of things. Maybe they're going to move slower, and they're probably going to move way slower because that's just who they are, right? That's Sony just drags their heels. They do a lot of following. They do a lot of copying. And when all the arrows have been slung at Microsoft and Microsoft's been beat over the head, they stand up and they announce they're doing something and everyone cheers it on like it's something new. That's how Sony rolls. So this is probably how it's going to roll, and it's going to start with PC. Ghost of Yotai is going to be PC day and date. I'm telling you that is. Now, that's not that I've heard it from anybody over at the studio. I'm just saying it makes too much sense for a game that is probably going to sell really well on PlayStation because it is a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but it's going to sell well on PC and probably even better. But I'm sorry I derailed your thoughts. I just wanted to throw that out there. Fuzzy, please continue.
Yeah, I think moving forward, the biggest thing to look at is that exclusives, as far as just being only on Xbox, I guess is going to be a thing in the past. And I guess Game Pass at this point is that exclusive. I know people have said that early on, as far as something that when Phil said the thing about Bethesda where those games will be only on places where Game Pass exists kind of thing. Well, we all know, I guess, Nintendo, although I guess we could find out if there's any cloud streaming stuff on the Switch too, which I wouldn't be surprised, which, looking at things like the Quest having it and a few other devices out there having it kind of makes sense to some extent, but I could see Nintendo continuing with their, only their walled garden. But in the grand scheme of things, games moving forward, these budgets are definitely out of control. And I hate this ridiculousness of the conversation of $100 Grand Theft, or was it GTA 6 kind of thing? Like nope. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I know, game companies want to make money, but I think you would cut your sales in half, not really doubling the price, but increasing the price that much for like a base edition. I could see, even though it's a well sought after game, highly anticipated, I don't think everybody that's anticipating to play that game is willing to part with that $100 on the basic edition. Now, if you do like a collector's edition or a deluxe edition at 100, where maybe you get a few extra skins or you already get an in-game house or something, I'm pretty sure people will justify spending that 100. But if you're just talking about the basic game at 100, I mean, me personally, if it's not PC day and date at that point, then I will probably wait it out until it comes to PC. But that's just me. And it's not for not having the funds to do it. It's just I don't want to encourage companies to pay or transition to that pay $100 for every game release type of deal. I did the same thing with the 70. There are very few games that I paid 70 or over 70 for. A lot of them I usually wait until their deluxe edition is below 70 as far as sale time. So sometimes that's 2 months later, like things like, what was that? Saints Row or whatever. Sometimes it could be 6 months later, like Ratchet and Clank. So there's plenty of games to play for under that price point, and $100 will just make me that much more of a I wouldn't say a stingy gamer, but more of a frugal gamer at that point, as far as where my money goes. But, this game going over there, yes, it's over 4 years old. We're hearing that, there will probably be an announcement either late this year or next year of a Forza Horizon 6. I'm wondering what the licensing matters for this. Is this delisted next year or 2 years from now, or what the case might be as far as how the licensing goes? This is kind of like an Xbox experiment, because with it being a licensed thing that normally after about 5 or 6 years gets delisted,
yep.
If it sells well enough on PlayStation, does that mean now they'll just pay extra to continue those licenses and then possibly make an online playground where you have the maps for like the original Forza Horizon in the US, or the one in Europe for Forza Horizon 2, or Australia for 3, where you can bounce around to any of these locations online. And then the next game will just be that map added into the online experience. But the game itself, being, moving forward, will be almost like that single player experience that you could do co-op and whatnot. But the online maps, much like the way GTA works, you could possibly see it where you can go to the airport like they used to have. Well, they still have airport runways that you can use as drag strips and stuff, but you go to the airport and you can fly to a different location within the Forza universe, which at some point I really hope they take the concept that they have with Flight Sim and do like a world map type of thing. But that might take beefier hardware, whether it's the next gen Xbox or the one after that type of deal. But I think moving forward, considering the way layoffs and cost cutting and expensive budgets and all that are going, I think this is a better step forward, as opposed to hearing that, oh, well, they do have to let some people go because, after they did the budget for Forza Horizon 6 and it didn't sell 20 million units that first day or whatever, that might be something where they have to like not really cut corners, but cut budgets or release some people or release some of the contractors or employees and things. So if it means they're getting more money to avoid those things, then I'm all for it, because that means we get more games down the pipe from those studios, more games that I like, as far as, things like Forza Horizon, hopefully in Japan for 6. But I don't really have an issue with it. Like I said, if it's not taking anything away from me, it doesn't really matter to me. About the biggest issue I've had with Playground and Xbox recently when it came to Forza Horizon was how they did the divide up on the car packs on Steam versus Xbox. Like,
yes,
if you bought it on Steam and let's say you bought 2 of the car packs, well, it'll take that from that $50 or $52 price pack for all the car packs. You'll get the reduction off of that, which you still get like a flat 30% discount or something like that. When it comes to it on Xbox, it's like a little bit bigger than the 30% discount, but the drawback is, if you bought those extra car packs, you don't see any price break in comparison. And considering they're the actual platform holder, it would make kind of more sense to do it the same way that Steam has it, but it is what it is type of deal. But that's a minor glitch or blip on my radar as far as problems with it. I figure by the holidays, those car packs will probably be another 30% off anyway for the big pack. So it'll even out at that point for me. But I think my biggest thing is, for all of those that are on PlayStation that have been bad mouthing Horizon, go ahead and try it out and see if it is as bad as you thought it was, based on like the screenshots from Series S, like pictures, or low spec PC pictures, when you try to compare it to the photo mode in GT7, which isn't the in-game, but or just see where you can have it where it's full on arcade physics to somewhat simcade physics as well, because you can adjust things like the traction control, the ABS braking, or the strength of the ABS braking and stuff like that. So you can make it more like a sim. And you've seen people online where they have like $1,000 rig for the racing seat, wheel and pedals and shifter, and they have it on the monitor and on their PC, where it looks as good as almost like some of the real life sims, or even like the real life mods that you have for GTA with the real car brands that people mod into the game. So I don't know. To me, I encourage every PlayStation cat that's into arcade racers, give it a try. I would say it's worth the money. Your mileage may vary, but being a car enthusiast, it's one of the few games that has the most cars in it all the time. Like, I think they're hovering right around 900 unique cars. And when people are like, oh, well, there's tons of cars in GT7. Yeah. Half of the cars are probably Nissan GTRs. I'm just saying, how many GTRs do you need, or different variants? And if you're going to have that many variants, at least have other cars. Like, yes, there's probably, if I'm not mistaken, 8 GTRs in Forza Horizon, but with 900 cars, there's a lot more that are missing from the 400 or so that are in GT7. So might be worth a shot. And yeah, there's SUVs, but they're not the slow, boring SUVs. You got Porsche Cayennes, and you got the
We got the 2022 Bronco that was incredibly fast, bro. That was like a rocket.
Mm-hmm. And you got the Trailhawk Grand Cherokee as well, the SRT8 Grand Cherokee. So I mean, there's if you want to race SUVs, and even the old Typhoon and Cyclone are in there from GMC, when those were like basically a Buick Grand National in truck and SUV clothing to some extent. But yeah, it's a worthwhile game. Pick it up. Hit me up. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. We can race. Not the greatest racer, but I do have some decent tunes on 800 spec and lower cars. That's more of my realm, only because the 800 cars are like what I've actually driven on the road. So you'll see me with my C5 Z06, or you'll see me with my Camaro Z28, the newer style, like what was that, 2010 or 2011 that they had that. So yeah, have fun with the game. More games are going to probably go over there. I would say if you're going to be upset about it, get it out of your system now, but don't break the box. Either donate it, sell it, trade it, whatever. Smashing it only just tells us you're probably not safe to be around in person, kind of thing. But other than that, that's all I got.